Earlier this week, on January 6th, we marked the one-year anniversary of one of the most terrifying events this country has witnessed, the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol building. Many of us remember vividly the images we saw that day of the symbols of our democracy being trampled on by a violent, deranged mob seeking to overturn a free and fair election. For the first time in our nation's history, the peaceful transfer of presidential power was threatened as white supremacists, anti-Semites, and conspiracy theorists vented their rage. That was a very dark day. The darkness felt pervasive, and a year later, our country continues to struggle in the darkness with no clear path forward, no way of ensuring that voting rights are guaranteed to all, and our embattled democracy is protected from those who seek to destroy it. The ninth plague with which God struck Egypt was the plague of darkness. While other punishing plagues served as divine acts of war against Egypt and its pharaoh, the ninth plague was of a different kind. It made manifest the inner darkness of Egyptian society, the moral rot of a culture built on slave labor. The Torah says that the darkness of this plague was extraordinary in nature, so heavy and thick that it was palpable. Vayamesh choshech, says the book of Exodus. It was a darkness that could be touched. So also, participation in a slave culture touched and tainted all members of society. This darkness also symbolized a society so entrapped in its oppressive social structure that it could not envision a different future. Utter darkness suggests the absence of imagination and inspiration, the absence of hope. Finally, and worst of all, the darkness symbolized a culture of moral blindness. People could not see one another, says the Torah, and for 3 days no one could get up from where they were. The Midrash in Shemot Rabbah dramatically expands on the plague of darkness, teaching that the plague actually lasted a full week, 7 days, and that during that time the Egyptians were frozen in position, unable to move from sitting to standing or vice versa. Those who were bent over could not stand upright. It's a terrifying image of an entire people mired in a darkness so pervasive that it immobilizes them. The text says they could not see one another. Unable to see the humanity of those around them, the Egyptians found themselves paralyzed, isolated, and alone, imprisoned in the darkness that they had created. In the midst of this misery, the Torah says, V'chol b'nei Yisrael haya or b'moshavotam. The Israelites enjoyed light in their homes. Once again, the Midrash elaborates, not only was there light in Goshen, where the Israelites lived, the Israelites brought light with them wherever they went. In any place that an Israelite entered, says the Midrash, light would enter with them and illuminate what was concealed in jugs, in boxes, and in hidden places. Surrounded by the deepest darkness, the Israelite people were blessed by the miracle of light, and they in turn took the light with them and spread it wherever they went. It's a story that inspires me as I think about the pervasive darkness in which we dwell today. As we witness the persistence of our own deadly plague, and as we see the toll taken by the spreading darkness of misinformation and lies, as we watch with dread the repeated assaults on democracy and the distrust and hatred that increasingly divides our country, I wonder, how can we experience the miracle of light? Jewish tradition offers us a straightforward answer. The only antidote to darkness is light, and every mitzvah and good deed that we perform creates light and blessing in the world. While the Israelites received light as a God-given miracle, we have to make our own light through our actions. And that's just what we're going to do, in a way that directly fights back against the darkness that currently threatens to overwhelm American ideals. The insurrection was an attack not only on democracy, but on this country's incredible diversity, on immigrants, Jews, and people of color. So we as a synagogue are embarking on an exciting journey that celebrates our diversity and is sure to generate light, love, and hope. Together with Temple Shari Tefillo Israel and Oheb Shalom, we're creating the SOMA Refugee Resettlement Project, sponsored by HIAS. As we did 5 years ago, when many of you brought Syrian refugee families into our community, we are now going to be welcoming an Afghan refugee family in the near future. We're making a 1-year commitment to help them resettle in our community successfully. Social Action Vice President Shana Schmidt and Board of Trustee member Liba Bayer, who are leading this effort, will be reaching out soon for many types of assistance, items to furnish a home, help with housing, employment, schooling, language skills, and much more. When all we see is a bleak, pervasive darkness, Jewish tradition teaches us to combat it with acts of goodness. As we sang on Hanukkah, Banu choshech legaresh, we have come to push back the darkness. By helping an Afghan refugee family find safety and comfort as we help them resettle in our community, we'll push back against the forces in our society that do not welcome the immigrant and love the stranger. We'll push back against a political movement that seeks to destroy this country's foundational democracy. By welcoming a refugee family, we send a powerful message about who we are as a country and what we stand for as Jews. I hope you'll get involved with the SOMA Refugee Resettlement Project however you can. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs of blessed memory wrote these inspiring words. When we live as Jews in private, filling our homes with the light of the Shekhinah, when we live as Jews in public, bringing the light of hope to others, and when we live both together, then we bring light to the world. There always were two ways to live in a world that is often dark and full of tears. We can curse the darkness, or we can light a light. And as the Hasidim say, a little light drives out much darkness. May we all help light up the world. Shabbat Shalom.